Welcome back to a Michael podcast. You're joined by the host, me, Gabe, brought to you by our familiar voices in Johnny, Jaime, and Brad. So a lot of things happened recently, the biggest one obviously being the NFL draft, and we're going to discuss that. The outcomes, our surprise picks, those we think were reaches, those we think fell to them, and everything in between. So let's get it started. Johnny, do you want to begin with your winner of the draft?
So I have two winners. So my first one is the Colts. I figured a lot of people would go with Dolphins, Cowboys. So I wanted to go in a different direction. So the Colts had no first round picks because they got DeForest Buckner in that trade with the Niners. So they come back and get Michael Pittman, receiver, which is a solid pick for them. They needed someone to complement T.Y. Hilton. I think he does very well. And then they went and got Jonathan Taylor, who was my favorite running back in the draft. I think he was this. I'm not sure if he was the second running back off the board or the third, but definitely I liked him a lot. He's one of those guys that could have went first round if the receivers and corners weren't as deep as they were. And then my other one is Derek Carr, because when we didn't take a quarterback, which a lot of people were saying we were, and then he gets not one but three receivers in this draft, which I like a lot for him. So he comes out a big winner for this.
Mine would probably be the Carolina Panthers. I know we weren't that high on Derek Brown, but they did get Derek Brown. They got YGM, who was thought to be going in the first round. And then also in the second round, they got Jeremy Chin. So they got the three solid defensive players between rounds 1 through 3. And even in the fourth round, they got Troy Pride, who I was pretty high on. So, I like what the Panthers are doing. Johnny noted that they did go all defensive players. And they ended up getting another safety, a defensive lineman, and another corner. So I just think they were really have a really young core to build around in this defense, especially with this draft. Jaime?
Yeah, so for my winners, I have the sad enough to say it, but the Cowboys, they landed 5 potential long-term starters in this draft, and they were all somewhat positions of either need or just bolster up that team. They got the steal of the first round and CeeDee Lamb at 17, and then in the second round, they came back needing a corner, and they took Trevon Diggs and Neville Gallimore at the defensive line. They got a replacement for Travis Frederick and Tyler, what is this? How does you say that name? Bides or whatever. And edge rusher Bradley Anai. All of them are going to contribute right away, I think. And I hate to say it, man, but they had a hell of a draft.
My winner's definitely going to be me because I gambled on it and won some money. So yeah. So I won the draft.
So bets of the draft winners. I bet $10 with Gabe that the Browns would take an offensive tackle. Obviously they did, so I won that bet. And I bet Johnny, for those of you who remember, that AJ Epineza would fall out of the first round, and he actually went halfway through the second round. So I won some cash there. I consider that a win for myself also.
Another notable team that was a big winner was the New York Jets. They got an offensive lineman that I was high on was Becton, then got Denzel Mims in the second, even Ashton Davis in the third. So I think they won rounds 1 through 3 for themselves.
And Bryce Hall later in the round.
Bryce Hall in the fifth round.
Yeah. They got a potential first round pick in the 5th round, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, it seems similar to the Maurice Hurst for us. He was projected possibly going in the first round, and he's been pretty solid for us.
I was going to say the Ravens, man. They got Patrick Queen. I know later in I think day 3, they also got Devin Duvernay. They got a lot of good depth players, man. Just show up that defense too. They went a lot defense at the Devin Duvernay. Duvernay for me was a really big one. Also, Patrick Queen being able to follow them. That's a great draft, man.
For players wise, Drew Lock. Because they not only went out and got him Jerry Jeudy, but they also brought in who's their second round pick? They took
KJ Hamler.
KJ Hamler, that's who it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I got not one but two weapons for him to throw to.
And they also got the tight end Albert Oko, whatever the hell his last name is.
Yeah. He'll be a solid second tight end behind Noah Fant.
Yeah. So it's just that whole division now is all about speed, apparently.
I think we all won seeing the Bill Belichick's dog is actually making the picks memes.
Yes.
That was pretty fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I definitely love that.
He gave 0 fucks, so it was like,
yeah, he just walked away.
We don't have another pick for a couple rounds. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Here's my dog.
In terms of no, I'm good.
I was gonna say, while we're still on the total teams, let's grade, our personal favorite teams just quickly. Overall, what grade do you give the Niners, Jaime? Just a grade.
Like B+.
B+?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give the Raiders a B+. I think there were some things I wanted to do differently, but overall, I think in this draft, you take the player you want, and I think that's what we did. And
I will quickly note that the reason why I gave them a B+ and not a B was because we essentially stole Trent Williams for a bag of chips. How you said you put it in those words yesterday. We gave up a 5th round pick this year and a 3rd next year. That's insane. We got the best left tackle in the league, so I'm pretty happy about that.
I give the Raiders an A. They came in here needing corner help and receiver help, and they walked away with 3 receivers and 2 corners. One of which he'll start on the opposite of Trayvon Mullen, and then the one we got, and then Amik that we got in the 4th, or 3rd. He'll play. I think he's gonna start nickel. I think they move on from Joyner.
Yeah, I don't think it happens. I think that's the case. I don't think it happens right away, but I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah,
I actually think that Arnett's going to be starting in nickel for you guys because he was primarily a slot corner in college, and a lot of people were a lot higher on Robertson than Arnett, so I could see him overtaking that outside corner number 2 spot from Arnett.
And then we got the Swiss Army knife for our offense, which I thought that was going to be Henry Ruggs until we picked him up.
Yeah.
Which that's going to be fun to see because we have our own. Essentially, we picked up our own Tyreek Hill, and we picked up our own Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we had a solid draft.
Who's got some draft day losers?
So my draft loser is the Packers because they did pick up a quarterback. It's their quarterback of the future. But at the same time, they did nothing to help the team this year immediately. I mean, they needed receivers, and they walked away with the first 2 rounds taking a backup quarterback and a backup running back. So I mean, they didn't really.
Are the Packers really the losers, or is Aaron Rodgers the loser?
Damn.
No, it's the Packers. I mean, especially if they want to win this year, which they have the team to at least compete. And I mean, they just needed a couple more pieces, and they didn't really do anything for that. Yeah, because I mean, they're both solid picks. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Jordan Love's a solid quarterback. He's going to be starting for them for years. And then AJ Dillon is a solid player too. But at the same time, they have Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers.
For me, it's pretty hard in this draft to find a loser. I think everyone got improvement somewhere in the draft. So I'm going to say those that probably missed out the most. And I would argue it's going to be the Bears. I mean, missing their first round picks and then using the pick that we gave them on a tight end when they have 10 of them already. Like, I understand, similar to Green Bay, you already have a quarterback. Why waste that? But it's such a talented draft and so many positions in need. Why take one that you already have when there's so much talent anywhere else? So they did get Jalen Johnson in the second, but to go from the picks 1 and 2 and have 2 of them in round 1 and 2, I mean, and the significant improvement you got is Jalen Johnson. I mean, I'm not saying anything wrong with Kmet. I just think, like, in a time when you need to improve the roster, and this is the draft to do it, without having a first round, I think you need to use that first pick more useful.
Yeah, so for my biggest losers, I actually disagree. I think there was one team who was just a complete loser in this draft, and that were the Seattle Seahawks. First 2 rounds were atrocious. They at the 27th, they had Patrick Queen there, and they went and took a linebacker, but not him. They took Jordan Brooks with the 27th overall. And so what a lot of analysts did this year was that, so they took in the account that, like we have been saying in the past few podcasts, that so many players had the potential of going first round, and how Gabe kept mentioning, hey, there's only 32 picks. You know, people are going to be falling. So what they did is that they added percentage of, like, the chance of them going the first. So Jordan Brooks had a flat 0% going into that he would go in the first round, and was projected as the 84th overall in the Arif Hassan's big board. And at first I didn't know what that was, but it took account of 60 analysts made this big board. 60 different people put in this big board and, like, came together to make this. So that's quite a hefty amount of people. And when 60 people are rating this linebacker at 84th, and you took him with the 27th, to me, that's kind of sad. And not only that, but with the 48th, you took another defensive player in Darrell Taylor. So he ended up going 185, and he was a 93rd overall, like, in the big board, which I guess isn't that big of a difference. But it was a position of need where they didn't really need to address that right away. He was the 12th best defensive end in that draft. And when you're talking about where they picked him at 48th overall, I just don't see it, the value of that, where you did need another need. You know, they did address running back, but you could have addressed it earlier. Maybe another corner, safety, lineman. I know they took one lineman, but I mean, that's not enough to help Russell Wilson. That kind of just shows that the Seahawks are kind of like a joke of a franchise. And the only reason why they're in the playoffs are because of Russell Wilson.
I agree that those are probably reaches in the picks. I'm not arguing with that. I think, to explain it, I think with, like, Pete Carroll is similar in, like, Belichick, where they're gonna pick people that fit their scheme more than just pure talent. So that may have put into it, like, an account for why they took these players, because I'm starting to see that with the Raiders as well, that they're taking players higher than most people would have had them.
Right.
But, like, Jordan Brooks was ranked, what was it again?
He was ranked, what did I say? He was ranked 84th.
On the big board?
Yeah. And they took him at 27th.
I think this got the losers too. Just
for totally different reasons. just losers in general.
They're just losers. Yeah, they're the Seahawks. They suck.
I feel like when you're a team, when you're trying to, how you say, be kind of like Bill Belichick, where you're zigging where everyone is zagging, kind of like, oh, well, I'm trying to go a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're trying to outsmart yourself. Like, sometimes that can win. That can, like, you know, it can go good for you, but at the same time, more often than not, you're going to flop on that. And that has been kind of the way that they've addressed offensive line in the past, where they don't really sign anybody. They don't really draft anybody, like, high or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And how has that gone for Russell Wilson? He has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. They don't do anything to help.
Yeah, now that is a different thing. Like, yeah, they probably could have helped out in other areas. Like, offensive line is probably a good one for them. I think, like, something that is also I had to learn is that, yes, all these experts, including us, you know, I'm not saying including us as experts, but, you know, giving our opinions and, you know, the whole saying, like, you know, what is it? Twitter GMs. There is a sense of, we are missing a huge chunk of the draft process that only GMs, NFL coaches, and such like that have. At the end of the day, we only, even the experts only give their information from secondhand news and information of scouts and stuff like that and what they heard. They had a meeting with, let's just throw out Jordan Love, and the meeting went great. He said a lot of things. He gave a lot of those intangibles that you can't teach within that interview. He's a great kid. And all they hear is, Green Bay Packers like him. That gets pushed under the rug and no one cares about it. But to the Packers, they're like, man, this kid was like top notch. His interview was the best. And those are the things you can't see. Those are the things that aren't on the film. They're talking to the coaches. Yeah, I know what the media is saying, but personally, you and me, there's this, and that. Okay, well, that's off my list. I don't want that. Well, someone else might be like, hey, that's not terrible.
But what do they actually get out of phone interviews?
Talking. Yeah, exactly. If anything, that just messes with their judgment even more because they grow to like the person. You can like them as a person, but at the end of the day, how do they play? I know a lot of people said, you know what, he's a great person, this and that, but as a player, he's not there. So that can
obviously they're going to look at the film. I mean, it's not going to exclude it, but I mean, it's almost the same thing with the combine. Man, why do we care about the combine? They're not even wearing pads or anything in it. Yeah. If anything, I would say the interview is more important than the combine. The combine is just a good, he is fast. That proves it. Okay, yeah, he is strong. That proves it. These are his measurables. That proves it. But the interview, I think it was Mike Mayock that was giving wide receivers almost like a full-on test to see how well they would do year one. It's just going to help them out, understand them more. I mean, obviously you're not going to figure out from day one, but it's the whole also DVD test. Hey, we sent you the playbook. What does it look like? Oh, it looks great. I love the cover 2s. I love the cover 3s. The shit was blank. So I would argue that the interviews and these things, you're actually meeting the kid. I mean, all that stuff, you're getting on the phone conversations with the coaches. The coaches aren't going to give any of the media stuff. I mean, no football actual personnel is going to give shit to the media. They're giving those blanket statements, and that's why we get miscommunication all the time.
Yeah. Any other losers?
I just want to add that when we look at these draft boards, that the experts are making, that's not like a team's draft board. Jaime, you said it in the chat the other day. The Niners had Ayuk as their top 2 receiver.
Yeah.
Opposed to Judy or Ruggs. So, I mean, and if they would have taken, if Ruggs was there or Judy was there, let's say CD was gone and you guys took Ayuk over the other 2, we'd be questioning that.
Exactly.
But that's their top guy. So, I mean, when it came down to, I'm just saying, when it came down to, a lot of these teams, like the Seahawks or the Raiders, they went with their guy who they felt was better for them.
Yeah, but I mean, we can't just be saying for every pick, well, we don't know what they're thinking. This is why we're giving.
Oh, we know what they're thinking.
Opinions.
They're getting their guy.
Oh yeah, but we're giving our opinion of how we see it. We can't just say with every pick oh well, they each had a reason to pick them. No, how do we feel about that pick? That's what we're giving.
Yeah. I think we're just talking about a blanket statement overall. This entire thing. Because it is. I mean, I would argue the Jordan Love was I mean, it wasn't a reach per se, but I would say, why? Why are we doing that? You know what I mean?
A perfect example. Jalen Hurts to the Eagles. That was a head-scratching move.
Yeah, there's a lot of head-scratching, no matter how talented.
Surprises, God.
Oh, yeah. All right, what's the next one?
Steal of the draft.
Steal.
Steal, reach, surprise.
Yeah, steal, reach, surprise.
All right, so should I just say all 3 of mine? My steal, my reach, my – okay. So my steal of the draft is the Cardinals getting Josh Jones, 72 overall.
Yeah.
So that's a guy that, he's a little raw, but he was – we all thought he was going to go first round. And then he went damn near third round at 72. Or he did go third round.
He did go third.
That is third round. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he went third round when we thought he was going to go first round. He's raw, so I mean that's probably a reason he dropped so far.
Yeah.
Similar to Jacob Eason, because he's very raw, and he didn't go till later on. My reach is the Chiefs taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32. Yeah. Just because, I mean, everyone thought they would go Swift.
Swift or Taylor, those were, or Dobbins even. Those three were the consistent.
And this guy, picks. I mean, if we're looking at draft boards, big boards, but he was consistently like the number 5+ running back behind those top 3 and Cam Akers. So that was my reach. And then I also put A.J. Dillon there for reach for the Packers. Just because it was like second round and they needed other stuff, and they went on a guy that's going to play backup for them behind Aaron Jones, because Aaron Jones had a solid season last year.
Is Jamal Williams still on the team?
Yeah, but he does have injury problems, so that's probably why. And then my surprise was Jalen Hurts to the Eagles, because I don't think anybody saw that coming. Like, no. I had a feeling Hurts was going to go in the second round, for sure third round, but maybe second. I had a feeling, but to go as early as he did, and to the Eagles, who have their quarterback, that was a surprise. I mean, I guess at the same time, like, Wentz has had some injury problems,
but they just threw that money.
Yeah, they just paid him. So I mean, unless they're planning on adding him to the trade block, because I mean, my theory is that they took Jalen Reagor with their first round over Justin Jefferson. And then they took Jalen Hurts in the second. So my theory, who I told you guys, is I think that they're trying to go back to that Michael Vick to Deshaun Jackson era.
Yeah.
Because Jalen Reagor is, speed guy, similar to Deshaun Jackson. And then Jalen Hurts is obviously similar to Michael Vick, or like Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a surprise for me.
I know a couple of Eagle fans, and they got on me and were like, you better talk about how this was the worst draft the Eagles have had in a long time. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know about worst. He's like, no, worst. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And then I got another message saying, no, dude, this was pretty bad. This is pretty bad. You better talk about it. So
It's for the reason that, like I said, the Packers were my losers, is because there's other things they needed.
Corners. And then they were all mad about the corners. They're like,
yeah, because I mean, they picked up Darius Slay, but I mean, at the same time, that's not enough.
Yeah, and they were very upset about how if you're at that spot at 21, right, in the first round, how you had CD at 17, you couldn't have traded with the Falcons ahead, because they were saying that they did want to trade up to get CD before the Cowboys, and the Falcons were looking to trade back, but for some reason it just didn't get done, and they were very upset about that. Or they were just even upset that they took Jalen Reagor.
I don't think that the Falcons were looking to trade back. I think because they were one of the teams that were trying to be super aggressive to move up.
Yeah, but at that point of their pick.
Yeah, but I think I mean, they really liked AJ Tyrell, and maybe they just thought he wasn't going to be there at 21, especially with the Raiders right there. And then maybe the Cowboys, they thought.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because the Cowboys needed corners, which they addressed.
I think for the Eagles to kind of just maybe help them out a little bit. I know deep in the fields, but I think we often kind of get caught up, obviously, in the top heavy part of the draft. Picks 1 through 3 are crucial, and they should be taken very seriously. But even within those, you got a good wide receiver that's fast. It's going to help you succeed. I mean, yes, the Jalen Hurts in the second round, I'm sure, is where you're upset about. But Carson Wentz doesn't have the best track record with health.
Right.
What did you guys win your Super Bowl off of? The backup QB.
The backup quarterback.
So it's like it gives you that time to prepare Jalen Hurts and possibility to trade later, or just develop it to a solid backup that's there for Carson Wentz. Another thing, you got like 10 picks in the total draft. So, I mean, there's a good chance at least some of those will hit and become surprise starters for you guys. I mean, unfortunately, there's not that much on the corner backside, which you guys are probably wanting. There's at least a lot of linebackers and some safety. You get drafted 1, 2. 3.
Don't say anything else about
I
the
know.
Bills, though.
No, I know. 3 linebackers. So.
Because the surprise. So Johnny, we both had the same surprise. Was Jalen Hurts. When I saw that, I was speechless, man. I kind of felt for Eagle fans. Like, I'm excited because I like Jalen Hurts, but nowhere did I think he would go in the second round. So for the steal of the draft for me was Jacob Eason to the Colts. When you have a potential future quarterback that late in the draft, and he can sit behind Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett for a year or two, however long they plan on being there. I think that was a very, very good pick for them in terms of need for the future. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the steal. For the reach, I have Arnett, corner for the Raiders, and it's kind of in the same spot where drafting for need, even if you're reaching, is kind of like a really bad thing to do when there's so much better talent that it can be utilized at that spot. I mean, I brought it up when you guys picked him. I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry, but I don't know. Like, hopefully he does good. I loved your guys' draft. Like, I expressed this to you guys multiple times. Like, I even told Gabe, I'm like, yo, like, I'm in love with your guys' draft. Like, the receivers, everything you guys picked, I loved it. The one problem is that I saw a lot of people rate the Raiders draft like in terms of D+, C-, C+, and a lot of that was because of the Arnett at that value. And I get it. Like, you need a corner, and probably they did like him the most. But in terms of value, he was ranked 63rd overall, and that's the highest. But I was looking at a lot of different people, and they had him rated anywhere from 79, and the highest I saw him rated was 63. I went back and looked at his tape, and so he was going to come out last year in the draft. I actually didn't know that. But what's his name? Chris Carter talked to him. I guess they're close or something. Last year and told them, don't come out of the draft. You're not ready. Take another year and develop. He had a good year, but he did play primarily in the slot, and he has had attitude issues, and he's a physical dude. I actually like the corner you guys took. And what round did you guys take to the corner?
4th. Yeah, it's 4th.
Yeah, a lot of people had him rated higher, so that could have been a flip flop. If he does better, then that's cool that you guys got lucky on that.
I just don't like Arnett. I don't see Arnett and Robinson swapping in places. A lot of people had Arnett higher than 63rd. I don't really know where the 3rd round talent. I'm sure some experts did, but possibly thinking how you thought, where he was the 2nd corner. But yeah, I mean, the 1st corner was Jeffrey Okudah. I mean, the only other thing you would ask of him to do is transfer at that point, and then that would have been a notch.
Well, it's because the fact that he was the 2nd corner and he wasn't facing the top receivers. And that list where I'm saying he's ranked 63rd is made over 60 people. I'm not saying they're right, but when even with that kind of people are coming in and agreeing, like, okay, this is where he is, that's kind of like, holy shit.
Well, no, they're not all agreeing on that. What you're talking about is what they do is they take the average. So one person might be high, so they're not all agreeing. And so it wouldn't be like, oh, these people all got together in a room and took out each prospect and was like, I'm okay with this being here. And that would be all agree.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, that they had him rated as low from the low 78s to like the high 60s.
Yeah, it's average. So that what they do with averages is that like one person can have them really low, one person can have it really high, and it's going to be put in the middle. And
stuff like 24 that. Too?
I think he's pretty old, but I think AJ Terrell or someone else was like 23. Turning 20.
I was actually going to put Terrell as my reach for this, but then you guys took Garnett, so I kind of brought it.
Yeah, for me, I guess I'll transition into my reach. I really didn't like in the 1st round. I'm throwing up the similar, like, I think any of these players could have been in there. I mean, when we look especially at the corners, I mean, a lot of the experts had like Fulton being up there. He wasn't. AJ Terrell was, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd corner after CJ Henderson, who went higher than I kind of expected. I thought him to go closer to 12, but he went pretty high. And then after that, it was Arnett. And so, I mean, we saw Bryce Hall fall all the way to the 4th round. Chiefs running back, Clyde Edwards. I just didn't see him being the first running back taken even in the first round. I mean, like we said, no one was trading a second, so that's probably what factored into it. I mean, I feel like that's going to screw up a lot of this draft, is that no one was willing to trade out of the second to get back into the first. Most people were very content and being in the second and letting whatever comes to them fall.
Yeah.
But my surprise is the offensive lineman. I mean, similar to the corners we just talked about, I didn't think Andrew Thomas was going to be the first one taken, and especially not at number 4. But I wouldn't call it a reach, because I think this offensive line class was very unique in the sense that everyone did something really well. So it was about picking what you wanted for your team. I mean, they were either athletic freaks in speed, athletic freaks in strength, more polish, more technique. I mean, whatever you wanted, this class had it. So it was kind of like, what flavor did you want? Another surprise upon the offensive line was Cesar Ruiz. Johnny kind of predicted he was going to go in the first round. I thought that too. I just didn't know where. So he was always going to be my surprise pick on where is he going to go. You know,
did you talk about your steal already?
My steal is obviously could be to any Cowboys pick, either the first or second, but I'm going to argue that it's Jonathan Taylor going to the Colts.
Ooh.
I mean, not being like either the second or even first running back. I think that is a really good deal for the Colts. I like, their offensive line built for running, especially behind Quentin Nelson. And so I like that a lot.
And Marlon Mack has had injury issues in the past.
Yeah, I know he was a really solid running back for them, but I think like someone to really be the cowbell is going to help them out a lot. And I think Jonathan Taylor could be that. And I'm really high on Jonathan Taylor, so I like him a lot.
Before we move on, since I did have the same pick as Johnny for the surprise, I'll just go ahead and say another one real quick. Prince Tega Wanogo for the Eagles, kind of to like brighten them up a bit. Dude, you got a beast offensive tackle in the 6th round. Like, he was projected to be as high as 2nd or 3rd, lowest is 4th. You got him in the 6th round, man. Especially with Big V not there anymore. Like, I can see him being like a future starter on that team, and you guys should be really excited, man. He was a beast. And yeah, you guys go easy on that draft, man. It's not that bad.
Yeah, 10 players is a huge like future for them. I mean, when you think about like the division, I think the Cowboys are going to be short term, not long term. I think the Giants are building pretty well. I think Washington's building pretty well. So I think the future, you need to go to the future and don't follow Cowboys in going short. I know you guys just recently went to that Super Bowl, so it's you want to compete now, but I think this is a moment where you follow Seattle and you kind of try to rebuild, because I kind of like how Seattle's been rebuilding, to be quite honest, since losing all those players in the Super Bowl loss. And I think if you can kind of follow them and get depth players within this draft in the late round, and then create your future in the first 3, I think you're just solid.
Yeah. So next segment, rookie starters for our teams, the Raiders and Niners. Let's start it off, guys. Raiders.
Yes, I think obviously it's gonna be Ruggs, Arnett, and I think Amik Robertson's gonna start. Whether that's nickel or outside, and then I think John Simpson's gonna start for us, the guard we took in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I think we do eventually end up trading Gabe Jackson, whether it's because someone gets injured and they need a right guard, or if we package him, try and get Yannick from the Jags, because they didn't really help their O-line.
Say with him, Gabe. Yannick Ngakoue. Not Francis Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou?
Yeah, I think those are going to be our starting 4, and then just because and then I'll add it in there for the best rookie who I think is going to be the best, like who's going to have the better rookie season. I think it's going to be Amik Robertson. I like him a lot, especially if he's in the nickel, because he's a hard hitter. I think he's going to be a guy I think he'll get about 5 interceptions if he's starting in the nickel. If they do end up like immediately trading Joyner, or maybe even converting Joyner just back to just a safety, and then going with the Meek in the slot. I think he'll get about 5 interceptions.
That would be impressive, man.
Because he's a tackler. He's a hard hitter. He's a hard hitter. I think
thumper.
he'll probably get it like that, that 50 tackle range, 50, 60 tackles. And then, like 5 interceptions, probably like 10 or so pass defenses.
Dude, and you have Jonathan Abrams still back there. Holy crap, man.
We got them. We got those hard hitters.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot what you're saying. Obviously, Ruggs is going to be a starter. Damon Arnett's going to be a starter. I'm not entirely sure about Amik Robertson. I think he could have a potential to have playing time, significant playing time, but I think they're still going to roll with LaMarcus Joyner. I don't even think they trade him yet. I think they give him one more year as like, okay, let's see how we can kind of reuse you this year and, use you to your full potential. I don't think they switch him to safety because I think that'd just be a very congested safety room already. It would be nice to have like him as a free safety across from Joyner.
Move Jonathan Abrams to linebacker.
I mean, we're putting Muse as a backup linebacker, but what I think with this draft class is it solved our problems from last year. I mean, we were potentially a playoff team, and then we just went to that abysmal downfall at the end. And what was it because of? It was because of injuries and lack of depth. We had no legit NFL quality players at depth positions. I mean, we were rotating wide receivers was our biggest one. Even linebackers we were rotating, so we got Muse for that for, depth. And I know Mayock was talking about we want starters in the 3rd round. What they ended up going with is they're saying we're going to fix up, we're going to shore up what hurt us last year, and we're not going to repeat it again. We're going to create enough playmakers where if we have to rotate them in through injuries, we can do that. And then especially on the corner side, but specifically the safety side. I mean, we started picking them up in free agents. We shored up the defensive line in free agency. We shored up our linebacker core in free agency. So now it was creating depth. How can we secure when someone goes down, we have someone that we feel comfortable?
Just touching on the rest of your draft, man. Tanner Muse was a steal. John Simpson, I was debating putting him or Jacob Eason for my steal of the draft because he's a beast. And Amik Robertson right there. Dude, but I don't think we're talking about Brian Edwards enough, man, the receiver you guys drafted. He's a great guy, dude. He's a burner, man. I saw his tape. He tested well. I think he might push Tyrell Williams for that start.
I think they'll rotate those 2 guys.
Yeah.
It's funny, though, how the guy that wanted Grant Delpit or McKinney at 19 is saying we have too many safeties now. We literally didn't add any safeties since he said that.
That is true.
Oh, my God. Then he needed to come back to that game.
It is true. I mean, if we were to get him, I'd like him, but yeah. I wouldn't want just another depth safety. I wanted a starter.
All right. All right, Jaime, you want to go over your team? Obviously, you only had the 2. We had his tight end later on, but
well, we have another receiver too. I actually want to talk about, but yeah. So for the 14th pick, Kinlaw, obviously, the chat knows my feelings about the heartbreak, so I'm gonna skip that. I think he'll start. Obviously, I'll be happy. What was it we agreed upon, Gabe? 7.5 sacks.
Oh yeah,
7.5 sacks, and I'll be happy with next year. If not, then boy, you better step the fuck up.
That is quite a lot to ask for, by the way, for a defensive.
No, I know, 100% it is. But when you have a defensive line like that, that's going to take away from you, and you're considered the best interior pass rusher. Then all right, show me. You have the help.
Would that be the opposite effect that there's going to be less sacks available for him because Bosa is going to get to them before him?
No, Bosa is going to get them double teams. So is Armstead and D Ford.
How many offensive linemen do you think there are? You have 3.
There's 5 offensive linemen.
That's 6 players that you just named for double teams.
I mean, they're all capable of getting double teams, is what I'm saying. So he's going to have the opportunity to get there. he's going to have the opportunity to start right away. If he can push DJ Jones, he's got his work cut out for him, but I'm expecting great things from everyone who's trying to convince me that this was the right pick. So I hope it is. Brandon Ayuk, I liked him. I don't know about trading back into the first round, but it made sense considering the Packers did want a receiver. So we had to jump that. I think he's gonna be a very. I predict for him, I want to say maybe 600 to 700 yards, and that's being generous. I like him. I just don't know how many yards he's going to be able to get with a limited amount of catches. We are primarily a run team, and with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel still there, Kendrick Bourne solidified himself as a red zone threat last year, so he's going to have to push him for that. I think Pettis is a non-factor. The person I'm actually really excited for this year that, I mean, obviously he's not a rookie, but he was injured all his rookie year, is Jalen Hurd. I think he's going to be our wide receiver 2 or 3. Yeah, so I just think it's a quality. Do I think we got better this year than last year? No, I don't think so. I think we took a minor step back, but if they develop, that's more of a future moves. We did take a offensive tackle with our next pick. Makes sense, I guess. We needed depth at offensive tackle. We did trade for Trent Williams, but he is also 30, 31. So just for the future, for help him develop, makes sense. With the pick after that, we did take a tight end. Essentially another lineman. He's just blocking, all about blocking. He had very limited catches in college. I don't think he'll be a factor in receiving. So I don't think he'll really do anything this year. The receiver I am actually excited about, and a lot of players, a lot of people had him kind of like as a steal of the draft, was the receiver we had, Jawan Jennings. He went in the 7th round pick. A lot of people had him ranked higher, but before the combine where he started dropping because he did run a 4.7 at 6'3", 205. But everyone just saying ignore his game speed, ignore it. He's faster than that 4.7. The dude can catch. The dude can run over people. He does not get tackled. So I just think it's a lot of depth moves. I don't think anybody's really going to start besides Kinlaw and Ayuk. Obviously, the first 2 first-round picks. I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah,
I will say you said 7.5 for Kinlaw, but like I know, like Gabe said, that's kind of a lot to ask for from a D tackle. But I mean, if that's what you're asking for, because you're saying that the other guys are going to double team. But if Bosa gets like in that 15 sack range, and Kinlaw throws in like 4 or 5, that's really solid.
No, yeah. And I'm going to be looking at those quarterback pressures because I understand sacks aren't everything. But when you're taking, obviously, it was better in terms of price. We did have to let go of Buckner because we couldn't afford everybody. So I understand that. But in terms of we have depth at the defensive line, and say we go from Buckner, who let's say, for example, is a 9, and we drop to a 6 with our backups. And well, if we drafted a top receiver instead of going from like an 8 with Emmanuel Sanders to like a 6, we would have drafted like CeeDee Lamb, which would have been a 7 or an 8 already. I was just very high on CD or Judy. I didn't really mind. Or I think the gap was closed a little bit in terms of defensive line. But with our receivers, I think the drop-off was just too big. So they will have to develop and step up big time. The reason why I was mostly upset that we took another defensive line for the 5th time in 6 years is because when you invest so much in one position, it's kind of like, why invest again in the spot where you have the least needs? I understand we got there to the Super Bowl because of our defensive line, but let's also look at why we lost it. We lost it because we couldn't put up points. We lost it because our corners got burned multiple times in the 4th quarter. We didn't address corner at all in the draft. That kind of upset me. So.
Well, okay, so just looking at how the draft played out, you kind of have to follow when you go to the Super Bowl, you have to follow a couple ways. You can either follow the Rams way, or you can kind of follow Moneyball way, how the A's did it. You're gonna go cheaper and you're gonna try to rework it with multiple players. So, the Rams are like, we don't give a shit who we lose. Like, how much capital do we need to give up so that we can stay the same? And it's cool, but your window is shorter and it allows for less. It allows less room for mistakes. The Rams, if they go mediocre, it shows more.
Yeah.
They gave up a lot and they're not getting first round picks. Now for you guys, like you said, you got rid of DeForest Buckner. Okay, well then I'm sure on their pick they're saying like, hey, all the wide receivers are here. We have CD high and we have Ayuk high. Okay, but Kinlaw fell to us. Is someone that's similar to DeForest Buckner, playing that money ball. Yes, he's going to produce less numbers than Buckner, but he's cheaper.
Right.
And you factor in the surplus that Bosa is going to get because now he's a developed player. I mean, he was already a few years ahead of what he was supposed to be as a rookie. So right now he's going to be, a solidified playmaker. So that allows Kinlaw as the defensive tackle to kind of just play his role and develop. So that's a solid pick. I mean, you're getting a cheaper D tackle similar to Buckner.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying similar as in play styles. I just mean like number-wise. And then you go to the 25th. So as opposed to what you're saying, get wide receiver, defensive player, 25th, I mean, the value for them, because they had Ayuk so high up, is that the possibility either CD falls to them or what else is going to fall to them wide receiver-wise. And then they trade up so they make sure that they get their second guy once CD went down. I think it's a great move. I mean, I don't like you guys, but I think it was a smart move.
I just feel like we gave up because we did give up a 4th and a 5th to trade up, right? For this player. Where, say we did draft CD, right, in the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the 31st. Let's say no one there you like is available and there is an option to trade back and get more picks.
Yeah, like who are you going to get at the 31 that's a defensive tackle that's going to replace Buckner?
Blacklock was right there.
So you're trying to say that Blacklock
he was potentially right there with Javon Kinlaw. A lot of people had. Obviously Kinlaw was ahead, but the gap wasn't as great as a lot of people were thinking. So I would have been happy with a 2nd round defensive tackle or a 3rd rounder, as long as we address corner and receiver, where we have 4 first-round picks at the line already.
Yeah. I just don't think people valued the corners as high as that we all did, especially going into maybe the 31st. You could have.
Diggs was still there.
Diggs.
I think the Cowboys got essentially my first 2 picks, my dream 2 picks.
Yeah, but that's 20 picks after he went. So
yeah.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I think how the draft played out, you guys were a winner. I think this was a smart move for you guys. If you're going to get rid of a player, play that money ball, get a cheaper option, especially if he falls to you at 14. I mean, you trade back, get some draft capital, and with that, you made damn sure if you're going to go that route, you're getting Brandon Ayuk. Your dream. I mean, this is essentially Kyle Shanahan's dream guy. If it was right there between CeeDee Lamb, and they had him a slight edge with CeeDee Lamb, then the
That's
gap
crazy.
For them,
yeah,
the gap for them with Javon Kinlaw and Ross Blacklock was non-essential, like non-existent compared to COVID. You know what I mean? So, like we talked about, you got to go with the coach, and I think your coach did well, man. I would be happy with this draft, to be quite honest.
I'm just happy that they traded for Trent Williams, man. I think that was so crazy. Like you were his former coach, and then you just get him.
Who is your other corner besides Richard Sherman?
Right now, we are starting Emmanuel Mosley on the outside. Him and Ahkello Witherspoon are going to be battling for the outside spot.
And who are all your defensive tackles?
DJ Jones, Kevon Street. And those guys were injured for the Super Bowl last year. So I'm very happy because they're going to be healthy and they played well. Well, DJ Jones especially played really well when he did play. That's what I'm saying. Like, he still had time to develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just going forward.
Yeah.
Going forward, you're going to have to get used to similar to the Jets and Minnesota. They don't give a shit what your need is as a fan. What they're going to want for the Minnesotas, they're going to want a rotation of corners. I guess probably for you guys, you're going to build it older corners and go young on defensive line. It just seems like what the trend is going to be. You're just going to constantly rotate defensive linemen and probably secure up like Bosa and hopefully Kinlaw if you can develop into something. And then after that, it's almost like resetting because you guys drafted defensive end, defensive tackles, and then you traded one away when you got too expensive, but the rest didn't really fill out as much. So then you get Bosa and you're going to try it again with Kinlaw.
I think with that, Lynch is kind of admitting his mistake in Solomon Thomas because he didn't have faith in him to step up.
Yeah,
for taking Kinlaw. And if CD does go off for the Cowboys, or Judy, in fact, for the Broncos, and we don't win a Super Bowl within the next 2-3 years, I think he's going to regret it. Something. Most improved during the offseason.
All right, so for most improved, now that the draft's over, I got 3 teams. Number 1 team, the Dolphins. For obvious reasons, they threw money around, improved their defense, improved their secondary. Draft comes around, they get their quarterback. They get a running back in Matt Breida for a 5th, which I thought was really solid. And then they get an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And then they go back and get another corner. So now they have 3 solid corners. Then I got the Panthers and the Cardinals. The Panthers, because you could argue they got weaker at quarterback because they let Cam go, but they're bringing in a pretty solid who played solid last year in Teddy Bridgewater.
A better passer.
Yeah, and then they bring in Robbie Anderson from the Jets at receiver to kind of give them the. I think one of the best trios in the league with him, Moore, and Samuel. And then on defense, they just go all in the draft. Just all 7 of their picks were defense. And then my third team is the Cardinals. When you get DeAndre Hopkins for practically nothing, that's a steal. And then him by himself makes their offense just that much better. And then they go and get Isaiah Simmons in the draft. Like that's solid. I didn't think he was going to be there at 8. I think he was gone. I thought he was going to be gone by the Panthers.
Who did Cam go to? I didn't hear about that.
He's still on free agent.
No, he just signed with the Saints.
Oh, did he?
Oh, no.
That was Jameis.
That was Jameis.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Mr. 30 for 30.
For me, and it's not because I think their QB is super stellar and is going to change the game again. No, it's Tampa Bay. Because I do think last year they were I would call a legit team. Their defense was getting sacks and it was doing enough. I think what hurt them was that they did score a lot of points, which helped them. I think their offense still has a lot of star power. Losing Jameis Winston, I think would be considered neutral, but I would consider a bonus just because of how many times the turnovers kind of hurt you. And I think that's why Tom Brady is going to be an improvement, just on the fact that it lessens the turnovers. And then on just like free agents, kind of re-signing those defensive players that helped you. And then in the draft, helping someone to protect that offensive line, which will help make consistent drives. Getting a playmaker I like in Winfield in the 2nd round. So I think you're kind of improving defense and offense both together. So I would say a team that was already on the cusp of playoffs, I think Tampa Bay did enough to put themselves in a chance to make a run at the playoffs. Another one would be the Jets, just from a draft point looking. They did a lot of their free agent spending last year. So now it's kind of just building on that future that they have with Sam Darnold and all that they picked up last year. And kind of really not losing anyone too detrimental from, the build last year. It's besides like Robbie Anderson, but you shore it up with Denzel Mims.
Okay, so I was going to go with the Browns, but I don't want to fall into that trap like we all did last year. Well, not everybody, but most people did. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. They already had a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, but last year the offenses did them no favors, and kind of they struggled, keeping them in games. But now with the draft, they got Jerry Jeudy, be your wide receiver 1 or 2, complement opposite of Cortland Sutton. They got a slot deep threat in KJ Hamler. Hell, Jerry could be in the slot. KJ could just take the top off any defense, They did get corner in the 3rd round. And with their other 3rd round pick, they took a center, which is really good for Drew Lock, just to help him be in the pocket, to sling that rock. They did sign Melvin Gordon. Why? I don't know, but just to keep that rotation of running backs healthy. And I think that offense is going to put up a lot of points, and I expect a big jump for Drew Lock. And because they're going to be more productive, I see that defense kind of have a resurgence and step up. They do have Bradley Chubb, Jonathan Simmons. They do have A.J. Boye back there now. And they have Von Miller still. So I expect them to be a contender. It's going to be fun, track meet, watching the Raiders and the Broncos and the Chiefs all go at it. So that's going to be exciting.
I got a sleeper pick, and then I got someone I think is going to win it. So my sleeper pick is Denzel Mims on the Jets.
That's ass.
Because he's a 2nd-round receiver, which 2nd-round receivers tend to do better than 1st-round receivers.
Who has drops.
And then I think he's just going to get the ball thrown to a lot just because there's not really no one else really there. And then the guy I think is going to win it is Joe Burrow. Quarterback, he has solid receivers. He has AJ Green, Auden Tate, Tyler Boyd, and then they go out and get T. Higgins. Like that's very solid. And then he has they're not going to be – I mean, they have Joe Mixon too, so that's going to take some pressure off him as well.
Yeah, and he can catch the ball.
Yeah, and then they got – so I think Joe Burrow is going to – I think Joe Burrow wins it, but Mims is my sleeper pick.
All right, so let's just be honest and say it's going to Joe Burrow, obviously. No question. But if it wasn't to be a quarterback-heavy award, who would we pick? And in Johnny's case, it would be Denzel Mims. So
it could be a wide receiver, but I think they like to give a lot of love to running backs. If it's not a quarterback, I think it's going to be a good chance it's a running back. So I'm going to try to look and see who has the best chance to succeed. And it would probably be Jonathan Taylor, who I think is going to take that running back room, or Zach Moss. I think everywhere else, maybe a Keyshawn Vaughn in Tampa Bay. But I'm starting to look at like which teams kind of already have a running back, and most do. I don't think DeAndre Swift is probably going to be a close second after Jonathan Taylor in Detroit. But between those two, I'm going to give it with Jonathan Taylor.
The only thing I'd say on the running backs is they're not – I don't think any of them went into a situation where they're going to start right off the bat. Jet Taylor has the best chance just because it's Marlon Mack is injury prone.
I would say Cam Akers into the Rams because they just traded away.
Oh, yeah. So I think he would – out of the running backs, he'd probably have the best chance. But, I mean – Josh Jacobs didn't win it last year, man. I swear to God, if a running back wins it this year.
Oh, I know.
Watch Joe Burrow fracture his fucking ankle in the first game, and then this conversation becomes relevant.
If a running back has a worse season than Jacobs did last year,
then what was Jacobs' yards and touchdowns and stuff?
It was over 1,000.
Right.
And then
he had quite a few touchdowns too, right? He had 8 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 8 to 10 in that range.
Yeah. So with my pick, I actually have Clyde Edwards-Helaire winning it because Damian Williams is more of that pass catcher, and he's always been best in a limited role. And when I saw Andy Reid describe Clyde as a Brian Westbrook clone, I was just like, okay, I know exactly how you're going to use him. That means he's going to catch about 60 passes this season, I'm predicting. He's going to maybe have 800 to 900 yards if he gets the bulk of the carries. I think he's very explosive and he can do everything that the Chiefs want him to. He's going to be great weapon for Mahomes. And I think when you have an offense that has going to have to focus on everybody else, they're going to leave him wide open. Like Damian Williams is not a great athlete. He is a somewhat standard NFL level caliber player, and they made him look a lot better than he was. So I can only imagine what they're going to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I'm excited to see him in that offense, and I think he takes it. Or let's just say ours, because obviously it's going to be Joe Burrow.
Unless Joe Burrow fractures his ankle.
Unless, yes, Brad will be the cursed one if he brings this upon him.
That's right. That's my pick.
Prediction.
Yeah, that's my prediction for this year's Joe Burrow's ankle just obliterates itself.
All right. Anything to touch on that?
Do you want to touch on that? The speculation on Joe Burrow shattering his ankle?
I meant Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay. Do not promote injuries here, unless it's Russell Wilson.
Or anyway. Anderson Silva.
Ooh.
We'll touch on MMA later.
Do we see anyone taking the defensive player away from Chase Young? I mean, he's probably the one to beat right now. And
I have two guys.
Go.
Well, not ahead of him, but I have a sleeper pick and a guy I think's gonna win it. So I got, Raider, Amik Robertson.
Yeah,
like I said, if he's starting in that slot, I think or that nickel spot, I think he'll have a super solid season where he could win it.
It would take those 5 picks and everything you said for him to win it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think if he does that. And then my guy I think's going to win it is Kenneth Murray. He's going to a solid defense in the Chargers. I hate to say it. But I think he's going to I think he'll have a similar rookie season to Darius Leonard, who won it a couple of years back.
I'm going to go with linebacker as a sleeper pick, and I'm going to say Patrick Queen out of Baltimore. If it's going to
son of a bitch.
And I'm going to say why. I think when stuff like this, they like to put into account, similar to MVP, like how well is the team doing? And we all know Baltimore is going to be in the spotlight for that situation. And I think he's going to be able to bring a little bit more X factor into that defense, like kind of the Chargers. I think unless it's like Brian saying Isaiah Simmons going to the Chargers, there might be a chance that he kind of gets overlooked in that talented defense, or the opposite where you're saying that it shines through because he's put in more better situations. But I think Patrick Queen is going to be in the spotlight of a team that's doing well and going to help contribute to a team that really doesn't need a defense to survive. So contribution on any sense will be helpful towards his defensive rookie of the year. Amen.
So I'm going to go with a sleeper and who I think will win it. Sleeper, Javon Kinlaw, just because he should be facing a lot of single blocking and he has the opportunity to get there. I think he will be overlooked, but he's in a position where he can stack up those sacks, those numbers, those quarterback pressures, But who I think will win it, I was going to say Patrick Queen, man, but now I feel like it's very repetitive. Like he kind of touched on everything I was going to say. I think he is better than C.J. Mosley coming out of college. And C.J. Mosley turned out pretty damn good for the Ravens. So I think he's going to kind of do everything. He's great in coverage. He's going to have the opportunity. I mean, it's the Ravens, man. They develop linebackers, bro. Ray Lewis, C.J. Mosley. And now they have someone like him back there. He's going to have the opportunity to shut down the middle of the field and be able to track down those running backs, get those tackles, and especially in a defense where they don't really have that leader, I would say. I mean, yeah, Earl Thomas, but, I think he has a really good chance to win it.
All righty. Well, finally, some good news on the live sports front. We have confirmed dates for several UFC events now. We have 3 fights coming up in the, I guess when this drops, this will actually be closer to the fight day. We have fights on May 9th, May 13th, and May 16th. 3 fights in a week. I can't possibly get more erect, guys. I am so excited. They are all happening in middle of bumfuck nowhere, Florida, because they are the only state to actually sanction live action sports, considering them an essential business right now. Somebody had to.
It would be Florida.
It would be Florida, yeah. Florida man's out in force. That being said, Dana White is still wanting Fight Island to happen. He still has dreams of fucking Fight Island. But can we talk about this fucking card for a second? Guys, so we have a absolutely stacked fight card as close to a dream card as any fight thing can imagine. Obviously, Ferguson and Gaethje being the headliner, but we also have Cejudo and Cruz in that co-main. But there are some really, really stacked and exciting fights, basically all the way through, even the early prelims. What are some fights you guys are excited for?
I mean, I like to watch Cowboy anytime he fights. So that one I am really excited for. And for it to, like you just said, like for it to be on a preliminary card, like, oh my God, I need to wrap up my living room in, what did those old ladies put over the couches? Because I need to get that.
Yeah, cling wrap. Yeah, you're going to need, just use saran wrap. It's the easiest. You can just, just peel it off or scrape the cum off and get ready for Thursday's fight. It's going to be an exciting week. Which I don't even think Thursday or the next Saturday's fights are even like have a card confirmed. Like I can't find any information on those ones other than the dates were confirmed.
Yeah, they're very secretive about it right now. They just don't want anyone to like start blowing it up and trying to stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did the Nunes card get pulled entirely, or I thought they might have pushed it to one of those cards?
It could be, but
Okay.
she's not set to fight on 249. Of course, I don't think Nami Yunus is going to be coming in to fight her because of the whole family thing that's going on.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I think one of the reasons too, whether they're not announcing anything for those other 2 cards, is they want to see how they probably have the cards set, like who's fighting, but I think they want to see how this one goes and like the feedback they get from it and whatnot. They probably have for the next Saturday. They probably have Nunes as the main event, or at least the co, if they have another title fight that they're thinking of.
Johnny,
I
what's
think
your
that's
favorite
the
fight?
reason. My favorite fight, I'm excited to see the Nico Price fight.
Dude, that's the headliner for the early prelim.
Yeah. For the early one, dude, like that fight's gonna be crazy. They're both killers, but like Nico's a fucking savage.
Nico's
dude.
one of my favorites. Yeah, that
Nico's
dude's a maniac.
That what was it called? That fucking heel kick he threw when he was on his back.
Yeah.
That shit, the fuck, you just hear that shit just connect with his chin. That shit was savage, dude.
Nico's one of my absolute favorites, and I was psyched for this fight kind of going in before all this shit hit the fan. And to have that happening at like 4:00 in the afternoon is going to be ridiculous.
I know, what a way to start off the fight.
Yeah, just to give you guys a idea, that's the early prelims like main event. The prelims main event is Cowboy versus Pettis.
What a fight, man.
Like that's how stacked this card is. Like that in itself could be a main event for like a fight night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Both those fights could. And I mean the fact that Nico's one of those fighters that just is exciting that like you'd want to see him on a pay-per-view main card. Even though he's not currently ranked.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
But he's definitely an up-and-comer. And after this fight, because honestly, I see him winning for sure. Not just the hype surrounding him and everything. He's a legitimate, really good fighter. And obviously, I really like him. But it's Yeah, he could definitely be just. I mean, obviously the headliners are mostly based on hype anyway. With that being said, he could definitely make a headline card. Like the dude's insane. The dude's a stud.
Yeah.
Jaime, what's your favorite fight in this card other than headliners, of course?
Dude, I don't know, man. I have two that are. I know one of them is the co-main, the Henry Cejudo and Dominic Cruz. I'm just so excited to see that because Dominic Cruz, I never liked him, but would never disrespect the guy, dude. He is a savage.
Yeah.
Him and Cejudo, that's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting, man. And then, but the one I'm most excited for is Ngannou and Rosenstruck.
Damn, you stole mine.
Oh, dude, that's gonna be.
Mhm.
That one is just. I don't even know how to describe it. How it's gonna go down, man.
Yeah, that's a legitimate headliner fight in and of itself too. It's
It's like Godzilla versus King Kong right here, man. It's like two giants just standing there, like in front of each other, about to go at it, and you know what they're about to do. They're not gonna fuck around and bullshit like the Yoel and Izzy fight. No, they're gonna be right in front of each other and they're gonna bang.
yeah, fuck yeah. I'm changing my pick now since it's already been picked. I'm going Olenek and Werdum. That's a really good matchup. I hate Olenek as a person just because I think he's a scummy, dirty fighter, but he's a savage, and I hope Werdum kills him. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's going to be an exciting fight to watch too. Definitely don't sleep on any fight in this fight card.
The other thing I would say is I think they should have put Cowboy Pettis on the main card and maybe dropped Greg Hardy down to the
So
prelim.
I'm thinking the same thing too, but I think the reason they did that is you always want to have like an exciting fight for like the headliner. And
The
since
bigger
this is the
names.
last one before they switch over from ESPN coverage to pay-per-view,
Yeah.
I think that's why they did it as Cerrone Pettis for the headliner for this one, because I do think that one deserves a main card spot, but I think they wanted everyone to be hyped for the last quote-unquote free fight of the evening.
Wait, so they're gonna switch to? Oh, okay. I
I'll pay
get
for
you. I
this.
get you.
It's pay-per-view. You have to pay for it.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in on another episode of our Mike Full podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. And next episode, we'll be touching on the main card for UFC events. Yeah. So, Gabe,